Hello. I am back with another video. Today, I wanted to talk about Mental Health Awareness Month. Yay! As you guys probably know, I am a huge mental health advocate. I have been speaking pretty openly about my battle with generalized anxiety disorder for the last year. I think May 2nd, if I'm correct, was the exact 1-year anniversary of kind of my coming out of having mental health issues and really letting the world know that this is something that I struggle with and that I battle with every single day. And throughout this last year, my life has completely transformed, and I have had to kind of burn everything back to the ground for the 10th time in my life, it seems, in order to rebuild. But the difference this time, I think, is I'm building on firm foundation now. I think the reason that my house kept falling before was because I was building on very flimsy foundation. And it was because I had unresolved mental health issues that I had never confronted or acknowledged or really gotten the actual care that I needed. So if you have not actually seen a mental health specialist and you have been considering it, or you're not sure if it's still the right decision for you and you just need somebody to talk to that's maybe not a professional but is somebody that has just been through it, like an advocate and just somebody that you can connect to, my door is open for you. I am more than happy to talk to anybody and provide whatever kind of guidance and support I can. But just fair warning that I am not your therapist. I am not a professional. So where I am an advocate to support facilitation to drive people to mental health, that's really what I can offer. And what if you just need some support in getting there, please feel free to reach out to me or to call any of the numbers. I'm going to leave some links and information about support for where you could go if you do need help during this time. I know that with COVID-19 and with isolation, mental health is a particularly significant concern. It's, I think, probably the greatest elephant in the room of our modern society. I think that far more people suffer from mental health than what we are allowed to kind of see and understand, because it is such a silent thing that not a lot of people express or even realize or understand within themselves, because of just how much stigma still exists around the understanding of mental health. And if I can be anything of a voice in this sphere and use my experiences and my ability to share about what I've been through with the world, then I hope that I can hopefully at least change just one person's opinion and one person's perspective to get the help that they need. Because me getting the help that I needed was what allows me to sit here talking to you right now, because I was walking a path where my expiration date was coming soon. And I think, at least in my life, lacking spirituality for the majority of my life. I grew up in, I've talked about this here on this channel before, but I grew up in a very rational, skeptical family, and I think that there was a huge void for me in spirituality that helped me with my mental health as I've kind of filled that in over this last year. So I want to take a little bit of time to talk about kind of what I've been going through over the last year. And it really will be more of like just a stream of consciousness type conversation. So if it veers off, hopefully, we can all stay on this ride together. But a year ago, I really realized that I was beyond the normal scope of anxiety, and I was really in a place of a serious disorder, something that, I've often used this metaphor that a brain disorder is similar to any disorder in your organs, in your liver. I like using the liver because I think that the liver and the brain are very similar and that we can destroy them through behavior. If you're using and abusing a lot of substances, that does affect both your liver and your brain. And I was a pretty regular heavy drinker for about a decade, as well as a heavy substance abuser, and just the combination of that for such a sustained period of time did create permanent effects that I still notice. I have really bad memory issues because of it. I stutter now because of it, which I really had not had problems with. I will lose track of my thoughts sometimes because of it. And, I'm still only 3 months sober, so perhaps some of that brain plasticity will continue to recover with time. But I think that with mental health, something that we get lost in and something that the substance and alcohol abuse does is it literally lowers our inhibitions, and it makes us lose sight of self-control. And like that similar feeling of when you go to a party and you haven't really had anything to drink yet and you're really nervous and anxious, but as soon as you're like 1 to 2 beers deep, you start to loosen up and feel more comfortable. And then you get to a point where you can't even really feel like you can function in society. My cat is coming. You don't really feel like you can function in society normally at all, because you have to have a couple drinks in you in order to be able to just like be a person. And that is that's just such a dangerous, I think, way that we have kind of normalized social interaction. And I'm not saying that alcohol is wrong and that people should stop drinking, but at least for me, that was a big kind of part of my journey and my process. And I haven't really opened up much about this to anybody, really, to just some of my closest friends. But back in early February, after I was let go from my job, I was really in a dark place, and I was drinking every single day, still mostly just wine and beer. But I didn't realize that even just a little bit of alcohol was enough to really fuck me up, because when you're in an already depressive state and you add alcohol onto that, it's just like gasoline on the fire. And unfortunately, I ended up hitting somebody with my car, getting into a DUI, and I got a DUI, and I was subsequently 5150 because after the accident, I was crying and rolling around on the ground, screaming to the cops that I just didn't want to live in this life anymore. And when I said that, I think it was almost like the whatever alcohol demon lived inside of me, if you want to anthropomorphize it like that. There was some sort of demon that had possessed my body for a long time, and that was the demon of addiction. And for whatever reason, that accident just snapped that or killed that, and immediately I felt just this incredible regret for my life and for the decisions that I had made. And I really had to kind of use all of the accumulated work that I had put into therapy and psychiatry. And as I was sitting in my 5150 in my psychiatric hold, I just knew in my spirit. I mean, I was literally sitting there meditating for most of it, because I was so overwhelmed with what had happened, because I've always been like kind of a perfectionist and very kind of fearful of authority and not ever breaking rules and not wanting to hurt people. And here I was sitting in a jail, having almost killed somebody driving drunk, almost killed myself driving drunk. And it was the final straw. It was the true rock bottom that I had to hit in order to really, really conquer all of the demons that held me back for my entire life. And, you know, in that state, I had a couple of different choices. I could have gotten pissed off and angry and said fuck everything and just chosen to, you know, stay down that path. But for whatever reason, I have since chosen a complete life of sobriety. I have stuck with my mental health care, with my therapist, with my psychiatrist. I've maintained my medicine, my spiritual routines. I've actually been looking into finding a more consistent community and church or group of spiritual people. I don't know if I necessarily want to go for a church. I'm still really figuring out the specifics of it, but it took such an extreme for me to have to realize just how severe mental health really is. And when you don't really take care of it wholly the way that you're supposed to, it's kind of like play stupid games, win stupid prizes sort of deal. And I have been a cat in my life. I have made a lot of very risky decisions that could have certainly killed me, landed me in jail, gotten me in a lot more trouble. The trauma that I suffered through was really always due to this brain disorder that exists inside of me. And I can't blame myself nor anybody really for the lack of understanding of it. And it's just really, I just hope that I can share this story to inspire others that may be kind of going down that same path, that haven't gone to the extreme of what I have had to experience, to inspire others to consider thinking about their mental health and the potential consequences of what could happen if they don't get the care that they need. Because for me, if I didn't make the changes that I made at the moment that I made them, who knows what the next trial or the next test would have been. Like every single thing that happened to me, every single trauma that happened to me was always kind of something testing me, and I failed those tests over and over and over by continuing the same behavior that got me into that position in the first place. And really focusing on my mental health and focusing on my overall holistic health has really been the driving force to get me to where I'm at now. I have lost about 20 pounds over the last couple months. I feel physically better than I have in over a decade. I have been far more creative. I have been working every single day for myself. I have finally taken my power back into my own hands and gone into this path of being a creator, being a freelancer. And I could not have done any of what I have done had I not laser focused throughout this entire last year on prioritizing my mental health above everything else. My cup was negative. It was not even empty. My cup was in debt. That's how empty my cup was. And when your cup is empty, you cannot help other people. If anything, when your cup is negative, your presence in other people's lives may actually be detrimental, right? If you are suffering, being around other people will make them suffer as well. And that is sometimes separating yourself when you're mentally unfit. It's sometimes the more selfless thing to do is to remove yourself from the situation, to give yourself the time that you need to heal, so that when you come back to the group, you can be the whole wonderful person that you need to be in order to serve that community with the meaning that you should be. And sometimes you have to lose out on opportunities. Sometimes you have to hurt people's feelings to prioritize your mental health. This feeling that it's a selfish, greedy thing to do, but it's really not. And I can tell you, as somebody that has been through it and that is now on the other side, coming out such a better, more whole person, every single relationship that I have been able to maintain, and even some relationships of my past that were completely shattered and broken, people that I really truly thought I would never want to have anything to do with, I have gone out of my way to reconcile with pretty much everybody, other than a handful. There's a handful of people that I haven't reached out to, but I should reach out to them. I really should. And I think that reconciliation and kind of just explaining to people that I went dark because I needed to take care of myself, people are far more understanding than you would ever want to believe. And even the people that have hurt you or done you wrong for whatever reason, they are also humans going through the human experience. And I think that that is where I think, Buddhism and meditation and spirituality is that the practice of kind of understanding myself as a part of the greater fabric of humanity, and understanding that we are all different different carnations of the same consciousness, and we're all just expressing that in different ways, it really does connect you to literally every single person. I have actually been in addiction recovery, but one of the most helpful things that I got from Refuge Recovery, which is a Buddhist recovery program, the kind of practices in their meditation is to think of the person that, first of all, think of somebody that you love and that you deeply, deeply care for, like a parent or a spouse, a significant other, somebody that you truly, deeply love and you care about. You hold compassion in your heart for that person, and you forgive them for anything that they've ever done to wrong you. And then next, you think about just some random stranger walking down the street, and you look at them with compassion and love and understanding, and you hold space in your heart for them, and you wish them good love and good fortune and compassion, and you care for them for who they are. And then lastly, you think of somebody that you really don't like, somebody that has hurt you, and you share the love and compassion and care for that person that you would have for that loved one or that random stranger. And if you can learn to express gratitude, love, sincerity, compassion, empathy for every single person, that is the key to freedom, to conquering the worst that mental health has to offer. I have an anxiety disorder. It is a part of me that I won't ever be able to eliminate, but I can live my life and change my behaviors in such a way that my anxiety symptoms are virtually non-existent. It's like if you take the right medicine and you're on the right, you get the right routine with your lifestyle and your behavior, you can virtually go undetected with it forever, and nature itself will take you out before the virus does. And anxiety is no different. Anxiety is it just manifests itself differently. And I think us understanding the symptoms of anxiety and depression and knowing the signals of anxiety and depression in others is a really, really, really important part of the whole of the whole picture of mental health, because not everybody suffers from mental health disorders, but everybody is likely going to come into contact with somebody that does. So if you continue to see certain types of behavior as there's something wrong with that person, they need to change, as opposed to that person has a disorder, I need to understand it and interact with them in a way that lessens their discomfort. It's kind of just like, installing wheelchair ramps in buildings to make them accessible. It's just, we have to kind of shift into this understanding so that we don't continue to discriminate and bar very capable people from being part of society because of certain things that are not really within their control, and understanding that symptoms of mental health and anxiety and depression are real, and they should be compassionately understood so that they don't have to suffer more than the disorder causes them to suffer. They don't have to suffer from the stigma and the pressure that millions and millions of people that have suffered from mental health disorders have had to go through. The alienation, the separation, the just horrid kind of practices around mental health that really, really just need to change. So that is my kind of long-winded, but I hope helpful piece on mental health. I am so deeply grateful to every single person that has been there for me on my journey, that has supported me, listened to me, let me rant, let me ramble, been open to hearing the shit that I've had to say about all of this. I know that I've thrusted this onto the world and nobody really asked me to do this, but I feel just such a deep connection to this big problem. And if I can do anything to illuminate or make it easier for others, that is what I humbly hope to offer to the world. And if you guys want to know any more, or have any questions for me, want me to kind of do a Q&A type video on mental health, please leave the questions below in the comment section. I am more than happy to figure out some way to connect with those that are really going through it. And I love you. I appreciate you. Know that you are not alone. You are a wonderful, necessary part of the fabric of life. And I send you all of the love in my heart and healing.